The Rams shocked fans and analysts by re-signing Tutu Atwell to a $10 million deal, but I'm going to tell you why it was the right move by the Rams. Matthew Stafford talks for the first time after agreeing to a new deal with the Rams, and the latest on Cooper Kupp. Will he be traded or will he be released? Could they keep him? The latest on Kupp. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor. Subscribe to the fastest growing Rams YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Also, drop your comments down below. What is your reaction to the Rams re-signing Tutu Atwell? My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports over a decade. 24/7 Sports, Bleacher Report, Dodgers Nation, SI. Also do NFL radio for Westwood One. Today I'm flying solo, but the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, will be back on Monday. Can't wait to get his thoughts on the Rams re-signing Tutu Atwell. But we've got a jam-packed show. The Rams re-signing Tutu Atwell. Matthew Stafford made some comments after he agreed to a new deal with the Rams. We got the latest on Cooper Kupp. We're talking free agent needs for the Rams. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Okay, so let's get right into it. The Rams re-signed Tutu Atwell to a $10 million deal. It's fully guaranteed. So, a surprising deal, an unexpected deal, especially when you look at his production as a player after he was drafted with the 57th overall pick in the 2021 draft. So much has been made about the fact that the Rams took Tutu Atwell over Creed Humphrey, who turned out to be one of the best centers. People point to his size, 5'9", 165-pound player that has not had the production that you had hoped that he would have had based on that pick. Let's start by saying that if you look at his overall production, he has not delivered, but is it his fault? That is the number one question. Or is it a lack of opportunities? You look at his numbers, he's caught 99 passes for 1,343 yards, and he's scored a grand total of 5 touchdowns in 4 seasons. So 5 tutties in 4 years. And yes, you look at that production, you're like, why would they re-sign this guy? Why would you bring back Tutu Atwell based on that level of production? Well, the truth of the matter is when he's gotten his opportunities, when he's had to fill in for Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua when they're injured, when they've not been available, he's made the most of those opportunities. Look no further than last season. In 2024, when Puka Nacua went down in week 1, he stepped right in. Cooper Kupp was also missing 4 games during that stretch. And in those 5 games, without Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell had at least 48 yards in each of those games. He had 23 catches for 332 yards. It was, as far as yards go, his best 5-game stretch in his career. And then you look at the 2023 season. You go back for that with Cooper Kupp out. In those 4 games that he missed to start the year when he was dealing with the issues and the hamstring stuff, and there were some questions about him going to Minnesota to look at a specialist, and hey, Tutu Atwell had to step up. And in that stretch, 22 catches for 270 yards and a touchdown. He was getting 8 or 9 targets in essentially all of those games. And then when Cooper Kupp returned, Tutu Atwell just had one more game all year where he had more than 31 yards receiving and at least 6 targets. So that has been the issue for Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp is the injuries, but the issue for Tutu Atwell has been the opportunities, right? So if you give him opportunities, he can deliver. I mean, that's just the truth. The truth is that when you give him opportunities, he can be a productive receiver. And that is the number one question that the Rams are going to have to answer as to why they made this re-signing is, hey, are you going to commit to him having a bigger role on this team? Because we've seen with Kupp and Puka Nacua, when they're in the lineup and they're healthy and ready to go, his snaps and his opportunities, they fall off a cliff. You look at in the last couple of seasons when Kupp and Nacua have been on the field, he's had just one game where he's played at least 50% of the snaps. And that was last game of the season. That was week 18 against the Seahawks where the Rams are resting their starters. So, I mean, he had 4 straight games with 50-plus yards, and then he never had another game all season where he had more than 45. So, I mean, he has put up numbers when he's gotten his opportunities, and the number one thing you have to understand now is what name have I just mentioned in the last 5 minutes continuously? I've mentioned Cooper Kupp. Well, Cooper Kupp is not going to be on this team. Most likely, Cooper Kupp is most likely going to be either traded or he's going to be cut. There's really no way around it at this point. Ian Rappaport this morning, he said on NFL Network that the Rams situation right now is that Cooper Kupp is more likely to be released than traded. Cooper Kupp was expected to have some level of market, but he's got a $12.5 million salary, $7.5 million signing bonus, and teams just are not lining up to take on that contract. And he's due a bonus on March 16th. So that deadline, that's pretty much a deadline at this point to kind of move him. So if he's not moved by that date, then you're looking at him most likely getting cut. Rappaport said, it seems to me more likely than not that it's headed for a release. Someone could trade for him. It could literally happen as I'm talking, but that's what it seems. For Cooper Kupp, he's not going to make $20 million anyway, so him being free is really not a terrible thing at all. This could be a great free agent acquisition. I would be surprised if it ended up in a trade. So if the Rams do trade Cooper Kupp, if they release Cooper Kupp before that $7.5 million signing bonus is due, they're not going to have to pay it. It won't come on as a responsibility for them. So that would be a nice chunk of change to save. So that's why they're trying to figure this thing out before it gets to that. But as Ian Rappaport mentioned, paying the bonus is something that you might have to do to get a trade done. So if they're only being offered a late round pick, a day 3 pick, a late pick, it's probably not worth the dead cap hit for a late round pick. So, I mean, you have to kind of look at it as that is, hey, from a compensation standpoint, based on what we're going to get in return, is it really worth taking that dead cap for a 6th round pick, a late pick? So I just think from the Rams standpoint, it's kind of depressing, to be honest, that we're getting to the point of the Cooper Kupp offseason saga that they're not going to even get any type of trade compensation for him, and that you're just going to have to see an ugly headline, an ugly tweet from someone that the Rams have released him. So, I mean, from Cooper Kupp's standpoint, I think that the positive for that is, of course, you're going to be able to choose your destination and where you're going to be at. But yeah, it's not fun. It's an ugly part of the business. It truly is an ugly part of the business. But yeah, it's just kind of getting back to Tutu Atwell. I mean, this is someone that he has speed. He's fast. He can take the top off of defense, and he brings that dynamic. And he brings some versatility, right? A different dynamic. And I think for me, he's not that red zone threat as you kind of might want that Demarcus Robinson was. But look, I think that they're going to get another wide receiver. But I just hope that with Tutu Atwell back with his team and Cooper Kupp not going to be back with his team, that at the very least, you got to play him as wide receiver 3. He's got to get more targets and opportunities. And clearly they were impressed by what he did with his opportunities last season. I mean, like I said, he played well when Puka and Cooper Kupp they were out. And if you played all season with opportunities like that, then I think that you could totally justify this deal. The lack of production is not just on him. It's on McVay. It's on Stafford. So, I mean, I think, look, the truth of the matter is Les Snead and Sean McVay, they like Tutu Atwell, and they made this move to bring him back. So, yeah, you can't teach speed. It's tough to find speed. And, I mean, that is the deal they made. And I'm totally cool with it. I'm totally cool with it just because I think that you are going to make other moves on top of this. And that, if you watch Rams football, I mean, there's been some drops here and there, but for the most part, I mean, this is an untapped weapon. I love the fact that they're investing in him because it's going to force them to use him. And I'm excited to see how that looks. But coming up next, we are talking Matthew Stafford because Matthew Stafford had some comments about returning to the Rams. We're going to look at some of the other Rams free agent needs. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. The game tips off. The NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get it on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. We've had a lot of new viewers, a lot of new listeners lately, and now's the time to join that Everyday Listeners Club. You watch or listen to the new episode of Locked On Rams every single weekday, then you won't miss a thing about your favorite team. And just think about how exciting this offseason has been. You've got surprise re-signings, trades, the Matthew Stafford saga, Cooper Kupp. I mean, so much has gone on with the Rams, and we haven't even hit free agency or the draft. So now's the time to lock on to your Rams. But here in our second segment, we're talking Matthew Stafford, because Stafford, he made some comments. He spoke for the first time after agreeing to a new deal with the Rams to continue his career in the Horns. And he made some interesting comments. He said, I was talking to Kelly the other day just about this process and how it can feel sometimes like such a negative. It's a tough thing, you know, you're going through all these things. But at the same time, I was talking to somebody and they said kind of, hey, it just gave me the perspective like, man, this is such a positive time in your life. You're 37 years old, going into your 17th NFL season, and somebody still wants you to be on their team. That's a rare occurrence and something I don't take for granted. I don't take it lightly. It's still a humbling thing to have teams, and most importantly, the team I'm playing for in the Rams, excited about me being a part of their team and helping them lead the way. It's a cool thing, and hopefully we have a great season and get to figure it out again next year and continue to keep playing. We'll see. So couple takeaways from his comments there is I like the perspective that he has on this thing. He's not being a diva about it. He's not taking it for granted. The fact that he can still compete at such a high level at an age where a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of NFL players have been retired, or they're strongly considering retiring. So for Matthew Stafford, he's signing new big deals at this age. And then he says that, you want to have a great season and he wants to continue to keep playing. We'll see. So it does feel year to year with Stafford at this point. And I think that's a good thing for the Rams. I think it's a good thing for Matthew Stafford. I think you want to keep your options open, and he does not want to be a player that is kind of limping and crawling out of the NFL. No, he wants to go out while he's still competing with the best teams, and he's up there with the best quarterback. So I like that. He also said that it's about just wanting to win and chasing Super Bowls and talking about just being that quarterback that, if he's going to continue playing, it's about legacy. There's different phases to an NFL player's career. It's, hey, prove you belong. It's, okay, can you stay here after there's been adjustments made? It's, can you make Pro Bowls? Can you make All Pros, compete for the MVP, and then get a big bag? It's, can you secure your bag? Then after you do all that stuff, after you prove you belong, after you stay on, after you get your accolades and your personal achievements and all that awesome stuff, it's about legacy. And he's purely at the legacy stage of his career, where it's about just continuing to build on a Hall of Fame resume, win another Super Bowl. And not many guys get to the level that Matthew Stafford are at, where it's gold jacket and Lombardi trophies. Those are the ways that he's valuing and evaluating himself and assessing himself. That's the standard that he's at. Now, Les Snead said that he talked about bringing back Stafford and how important that was. And Stafford said of Les is a man of interesting words. I love Les. Whatever he wants to say, he can say. Just know that I'm excited to be back. Because Les said that there was a renewal of vows on both sides. So that made Stafford laugh. I love that they renewed their vows. I think that's just great stuff from Les Snead, and actually it's just 100% true. For me, I almost think it was the way I put it is they went to marriage counseling, right? A little marriage counseling, and they kind of realized that, hey, man, we got to stick together and we're good together. So I think that's where it is for me. But we're still waiting on the details of his new contract with the Rams. I think that if you just kind of look at all the information that we have so far, is of course he's going to get a massive increase to the $27 million salary that he was due this season. That's going to double essentially, especially when you look at the rumored deals that he could have signed with the Giants and the Raiders. We're talking about $100 million plus deals that he could have signed. The Giants were willing to pay him $55 million, and the Raiders were in that ballpark as well. So the interesting thing is that Sean McVay has already confirmed that the new deal is for 2025, and that the team, they're going to have to go back to the negotiating table in 2026 if he's going to play the following season. So that's something that I think is really important to the partnership that these two have, is that, they want to compete now, but if things go in a different direction, they both have that flexibility to go in different directions. But I think that the confidence with Matthew Stafford, the fact that he is back, I think he's re-energized, reaffirming his commitment to this organization. And we know that all that's left is to go out there and try to win another Super Bowl. But it's clear to me that they are married. I mean, they put a ring on it in 2021, right? They are, and I'm totally okay with this structure because it doesn't damper your future with just a massive contract that could be a burden, an albatross to what you're trying to build. So I actually am very, very for this agreement that they do have. Now, as far as kind of the quarterback of the future, you don't have to go. You're not desperate for that, too. You're not desperate for that. This think about this. Had they had gone out there and made a trade to get some picks. I mean, if you got any quarterback in this draft, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Shuck, Will Howard. I mean, there's just not a lot of names that look and feel like, oh, that's going to be the Rams quarterback for the next 10 to 15 seasons. I don't think that the Rams' future quarterback existed in this current draft. So if I'm the Rams, I'm getting creative. I mean, just look at how you get quarterbacks, right? I mean, they've gotten quarterbacks in the traditional sense where you trade up, you get the number one pick to get Jared Goff. You had varying degrees of success. You were able to get to a Super Bowl, but you didn't win a Super Bowl, and you realize that even a number one pick quarterback in Jared Goff wasn't good enough to get you over the hump. So you had to get a guy that you didn't draft and you didn't sign in free agency, and you had to trade picks and put together a package for in Matthew Stafford. So the point is, this organization realizes that to win a Super Bowl, which a lot of organizations say they want to win a Super Bowl. A lot of organizations, they put together rosters that they feel can compete. But as we've seen, there's a handful of them that actually do win. A lot of them skip the part where they win the Super Bowl, right? There's only a handful of organizations that are truly legitimate contenders. The Rams are one of them because of how well run they are, and they know that to win a Super Bowl, their formula is elite quarterback play, whether it's Kurt Warner or whether it is Matthew Stafford. So I think that there's a world where their next quarterback is even found in the draft, right? It's found via a trade, or you signed a QB, right? I think that's kind of where they're at with that moving forward. And the beautiful thing about all this is they still have Matthew Stafford. He could play one more season, 2 more seasons, 3 more seasons, but I think the formula for this team is an elite quarterback, and that's the recipe for a Super Bowl. But coming up next, we're going to start looking at some of these other free agent needs for the Rams. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, so let's talk about some of these free agent needs. And let's start with the wide receiver spot. We've talked about that today. They re-signed Tutu Atwell. We talked about it yesterday. The Rams being linked to Davante Adams. Well, I do think that with Cooper Kupp out of the mix, Demarcus Robinson, he's most likely gone too. The Rams, I think, need another premier wide receiver to give Matthew Stafford the weapons to take some of the brunt of the load off of Puka Nacua. And there's names out there. You got veterans. You got Davante Adams. You got Marquise Brown. There's going to be varying levels of names that you can go out there and pursue. And the Rams are a destination franchise for free agents, but most specifically, I think wide receivers. And yes, you got Jordan Whittington, who's in the fold, that he fits that mold of a Rams receiver that's big, physical, and the way he plays in the running game, the way he blocks. And, that's kind of something that we talk about Tutu Atwell. One of the reasons why his snaps were limited at times were kind of the performance in the run game. So I think that you got the big physical wide receiver in Jordan Whittington that can do some of the things that Cooper Kupp did. But I think going out there and looking for another wide receiver is pivotal. I truly, truly do. And I don't want to see any of these dollar menu ones, right? I think this is the off season where if it could be Matthew Stafford's last year with the Rams, the last thing I want to look back and think about is, wait a minute, did we truly give him as many weapons as we could have to give him an opportunity to win another Super Bowl? I don't want to see that. And we know that Puka Nacua is all pro. I mean, he's an all pro level talent. He truly is. I mean, he is unbelievable that they found a true WR1 with their 4th pick in the 5th round a few seasons ago. But Puka's gotten banged up too, right? He's missed time. That's the reason why he was picked in the 5th round, quite frankly, because the injury issues that he dealt with when he was at Washington and BYU. So I think that it's important to get another guy that can truly form a duo with Puka and give him another explosive weapon. So we'll monitor that market. I mean, lots of. I mean, DK Metcalf is someone that go get traded. I mean, there's going to be receivers available for the Rams. It's just, who do they want to invest in and how much are they willing to give up to get one? Other big free agent need is the cornerback position. The cornerbacks really need to. The cornerback position for the Rams is something that needs to be addressed. I mean, Kobe Durant, he's going to be back most likely. Kella Witherspoon, he's a free agent. Darius Williams, he's someone that, could he be a cap casualty? I mean, they released Trey Tomlinson. Emmanuel Forbes Jr. is someone they picked up during the season last year. They claimed him off waivers. So he's a project, someone that they took a flyer on, and hopefully he works out. The potential's certainly there, but he's not a guarantee. They could re-sign Akella Witherspoon, but that's some depth piece, and I'm sure that he wants to be back with this Rams organization. But still, the Rams need to go out there and make a splash at the cornerback spot. They 100% do. You got the Rams linked to Charvarius Ward. They're linked to DJ Reed. I mean, you got to find an upgrade at that position, because the safety play was really, really good. The linebacker play is another thing that we can kind of talk about too, especially inside linebacker. I mean, with Chris Hewlett's defense, last year they were fine with guys like Christian Roseboom, and Omar Spates is someone that they found, and they think that he's going to be someone for this team. And they're not going to invest heavily in that position, but I do think they could use a linebacker that's got a little more east and west in him, and someone that, we saw with Ernest Jones, the ability to go sideline to sideline and make tackles in the run game. They could benefit certainly from that. But look, I think that you look at wide receiver, you look at cornerback. I mean, tight end is a position too that they could certainly use an upgrade. I mean, Tyler Higbee, the most productive tight end in Rams history, he's nearing the end of his career. He's coming off a major injury, and we know that he's someone that towards the end of the season sometimes starts to fade a little bit when you look at the numbers and the production. Colby Parkinson, still under contract. He was just not what he was billed out to be last season. I mean, he definitely, I don't want to use the bus term on him and label him that, but he just did not live up to that contract over $22 million. Davis Allen, he's going to be back. The catch radius is there, but he's not the answer either. I think personally that if Colston Loveland out of Michigan is available with a 26th pick, I like that. I mean, if you trade up to get Warren, I don't know. That's a little more unlikely. But look, let's not forget, the Rams wanted to trade up to get Brock Bowers last season. So clearly, even though Sean McVay hasn't utilized that position as much in his career as a play caller as you would think, I think that is a part of his offense that he would like to evolve towards. So even though he hasn't done as much, I do think a dynamic pass-catching, explosive tight end could do things for this offense in Matthew Stafford. So that's something that I really hope they consider is drafting a tight end. I really, really do, because that's a position that you're seeing more. It's definitely trending in that direction. I mean, Evan Ingram is someone that they consider. He was released by the Jaguars. So this is kind of just a quick primer on some thoughts about free agency, and we're going to continue to dive deep into this all offseason, especially early next week. But get ready, buckle up. Cornerback, wide receiver, D-line, inside linebacker. This team has needs to fill, and that really, I think, ultimately is going to determine if this team is going to be up there with the Philadelphia Eagles and teams like that in the NFC to compete for a championship, because they've dominated the draft. they haven't had as much success in free agency. So imagine the year where they hit on the draft again and they hit on free agency, plus they retain the talent that they have, and these young players emerge and get better. Well, then you have the ingredients for a Super Bowl, and that's what it's all about, Ramley. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.